The 790 Duke gets the biggest update of its career, and KTM is listening to its customers. Keyword, demo mode. What else is behind it all, and whether it can fight its way to the top of the middleweight naked bike class, you'll find out in this video. And with that, welcome to 1000 PS TV. Welcome from Saalfelden. Yes, at the start of New Church Summit Week, I made a little detour to Saalfelden to test the new 790 Duke, because this is where KTM is presenting the 27 model year of this very popular middleweight naked bike. Just to put it into context, it came onto the market in 2018, replaced the 690 Duke back then, and it was a genuinely big and important move for KTM. Now, over the past few years, it has been treated a bit like the neglected child, but that is set to change with the 27 model year of the 790 Duke. And what is really behind it all, and which features it has, that is what we are going to look at now. So, let's take a detailed look at the new 790 Duke. Of course, the new look is immediately noticeable. It is inspired by and based on the bigger models, the 990 Duke, and the 1290 Duke, but we were told it is not the same headlight unit. Here too, you can see straight through to the forks, which means this front section, where we have the daytime running lights, and of course the main headlight in the middle, has been specially designed for the 790 Duke. Naturally, it takes its cues from the familiar models. Then I'd say we move on to the engine. This is the familiar inline twin-cylinder engine that has always been fitted in the Duke. 95 horsepower and 87 newton-meters of torque. Of course, some of you will say, didn't the Duke often have, or at least used to have, 105 horsepower, and there was the L version with 95 horsepower? Yes, that's true, and it still is. But in Europe, only the 95 horsepower version is offered, because this can then be easily restricted for the A2 license. The rest of the world gets the 105 horsepower version, but I can already tell you now, on the road, you really do not feel short of power. The engine has now been finished in black, and KTM stressed this several times so that it integrates better into the overall look of the new Duke. But apart from that, of course, it is still the familiar inline twin-cylinder engine. The technical components are interesting too. At the front, we have an upside-down WP fork fitted. It can be adjusted up here with 5 clicks on each side. That means it is a really simple system, and you can set the bike up nicely for yourself. A steering damper is also fitted back here, and the brake components come from WP as well. This is a completely new system that WP developed specifically for the 790 Duke. At the front, we have two 300mm discs and 4 piston radial calipers, and at the rear, a single piston caliper with a 240mm disc. This braking system also includes the new brake master cylinder and the newly developed levers. They have a really nice shape, but I will show you that again when we get to the ergonomics. WP carried out surveys within its own team and used that to create what they considered the perfect lever. They are also adjustable as standard, again with several clicks here. So you really can find a nice position for yourself. That is already a very well solved detail. If we move further along the side, we see the new bodywork. It has become wider towards the front, but narrower towards the tank, so that from the front it has a beefy look, while from the saddle you can still get good contact with the ground. There are no sharp edges here, which means you can really position your leg nicely. Then the bodywork flares out here at the front. What you can and must say though is that you do notice the 790 Duke has been built with a price point in mind. So here the KTM sticker on the tank, and also the side stickers here. They are not lacquered over, so you can peel them off. Yes, if you want to customize it, that is of course nice, but it should be mentioned. If we look upwards, we have a 5-inch TFT color display fitted. So not this new wide unit, but rather an old school TFT display. Still, it is easy to read and gives me all the functions I need. Above all, there is quite a bit of electronics on board here as well. On the left-hand control unit, we can see the cruise control. That is optional. But otherwise, the most important equipment is on the bike. We have 4 riding modes: street, road, sport, and track, although track is also optional. And each of these riding modes can be freely configured. We still have lean angle sensitive traction control and ABS on board. That comes as standard. And as I already mentioned in the intro, there is no demo mode anymore. That means the track pack and the tech pack still exist. Those include things like the Quickshifter or the cruise control I just mentioned, but there is no demo mode anymore. In other words, if you want the packages or the individual accessories, you can still order them, but they are not unlocked from the start and then taken away from you again afterwards. Let us continue with this walk around. We have this new seat, 825mm high. Even so, more foam has been added. The seat has stayed the same width at the rear, but it has become narrower at the front. Of course, that means shorter riders will have an easier time on the bike, but you can also lower the suspension. KTM offers a dedicated package for that. Otherwise, the pillion seat is also relatively large, so I can really imagine that you could enjoy some nice rides 2-up as well. According to the registration document, the maximum permitted weight of the bike is 430 kilograms. A weight of 185 kilograms is also stated. That means you can work it out. You can load just over 200 kilograms here. If we keep looking along the side, we have a new exhaust. Of course, it has also been adapted so that this bike could be homologated for Euro 5+. Otherwise, it is a very discreet exhaust that integrates nicely into the lines of the bike. And then, further down, we have the swing arm and the WP brakes already mentioned. As for tyres, the 790 Duke now comes as standard with Pirelli Diablo Rosso 4 tyres. A sporty tyre, but one that does not immediately struggle in bad weather either. And what is also new at the rear is that it no longer has this bulky central light. Instead, as we already know from other KTM models, the rear light is integrated with the indicators here on both sides. That looks much slimmer and also suits the overall family look KTM now has. Otherwise, what else can I show you? Yes, the Quickshifter is fitted here, also on our test bike. I can definitely recommend it. KTM knows how to build Quickshifters. What also surprised me a little now is the operation of the cruise control, which, as already mentioned, is optional as well. I activate it here with a button, and then down here around the handlebar, I have the controls for increasing and decreasing the speed. But unlike on many bikes, I cannot switch off the cruise control by rolling the throttle past its closed position, because here I simply hit the stop. No, I would have to deactivate it with the button or with the brake. That is something you just have to keep in mind if you are used to it. And yes, otherwise I do not think I can tell you anything more about the 790 Duke from here, but of course we will carry straight on and see how it performs from the saddle in terms of ergonomics. I am now welcoming you again from the saddle of the 790 Duke. Just to put things into context, I am 1.75 m tall, and as you can already see, just standing still here on this seat with an 825mm seat height, I have a good stance. I can clearly get both feet on the ground, and even when I lift my leg up, the picture here is good. I have plenty of space around the cutout of the tank, which means I can really move freely here. I also have plenty of room towards the rear, so I can genuinely find a nice seating position. I also spoke to my dear colleague Moritz from Motorrad about it. He is 1.94 m tall, and even he found enough space. He only said that over time the knee angle is too sharp for him, because the foot pegs on the 790 Duke have moved a little further back and also upwards. That means the knee angle has become sportier, and ground clearance, so lean angle clearance, has been increased as a result. So if you are taller, that may be something to bear in mind, but there will not be any problems around the tank. If I look further forward in terms of ergonomics, I have the new handlebar in front of me. It is now more open, which means it noticeably opens up the rider triangle. And of course, you would now need a direct comparison with the old 790 Duke to ride out the exact differences. But what I can say here with this update is that I really like the handlebar. And it is a genuine highlight, because unlike on other KTM models, especially from the past, I am not sitting so close to the handlebar. In other words, the distance from the seat to the handlebar feels as though it has grown. And that gives me a very harmonious seating position here. I have nice pressure on the handlebar, but without the feeling that I am sitting right on top of it. So for a naked bike, it is really very pleasant, very direct to steer, and that also slowly brings us to the riding impressions. Because today we had the chance to ride the 790 Duke here around Saalfelden. We even went out to the Grossglockner, my first time on Austria's highest mountain at a crisp 6 degrees. So yes, it was fairly fresh, but the view was worth it. And there we were able to get a bit of a feel for how the 790 Duke actually rides. Let us start with the engine. This is the familiar twin cylinder, just under 800 cubic centimetres. And as I have already mentioned, in the European version it makes 95 horsepower and 87 newton meters of torque. But here too, you would have to say that you would need to compare it with the old one to see what differences there really are in the engine. Still, I have absolutely no concerns about the engine, especially because many people complain that Euro 5 Plus kills the sound. Here under the seat, we now have a new inlet for the intake, so for the air intake. And when riding, we get a really nice intake sound. The design of the exhaust is also very nice, and it ends quite high up. That means you also hear a lot of the sound from there. And for a stock system, I think it is genuinely okay. KTM also has a Remus exhaust in its range if you want even more sound. That one is finished in black, looks good too, and I heard it briefly today as well. Not bad either. But let us come back to the engine. It has a really nice throttle response and revs up cleanly. Below 3,000 revs, it can sometimes get a little jerky, but once you are above that, the engine really revs up nicely, right to the end of the rev range. Of course, we also have the option to change the response with the different riding modes. And that is very easy to explain. In rain mode, you can really feel how the power is being dialed back. Street mode is basically the standard setting. While in sport mode, the full power is really released and you can properly feel this engine. I can also very much recommend ordering the Quickshifter Plus with it. You can buy it either in a package or separately because it works really well on KTMs. It works at every rev range and it also gets a little more out of the engine when you can really click through the gears quickly. On downshifts, you might even hear a little crackle from the back now and then. That really gives the engine even more character. But in any case, in terms of the engine, this 790 Duke is still a genuinely great motorcycle. And above all, in terms of performance on country roads, it is more than enough. So a lot of people will probably be perfectly well served by this engine. You do not need more power than this in everyday riding. As for the suspension, we already covered that during the walk around. We have a 43mm upside down fork. It is adjustable in 5 steps simply with a click system, and the suspension suits this bike well. We have a weight of 185 kilograms. Some colleagues adjusted the suspension for themselves, but I rode today in the standard setting. And on a middleweight naked bike like this, it really does its job very well. The basic setup, yes, is chosen slightly on the sportier side, but that is exactly what you want on a sharp naked bike like this. That means you can really tip into corners nicely and directly. Although here too, the Pirelli Diablo Rosso 4 will also play its part, but in terms of suspension, it is really nicely sorted. They have found a good compromise between sportiness and everyday comfort. And the same can be said about the brakes. The new WP brakes have a good bite point, especially at the front. So maybe it takes a little more hand force if you brake with just one finger, but with 2 fingers, it is definitely not a problem. And the braking performance is really very pleasantly sorted. You can modulate the brakes nicely and let the bike run into the radius. We do not have such a harsh tendency to stand up. That means it is genuinely very pleasant, harmonious and dynamic to ride. So beginners will enjoy it, but experienced riders will as well. And today, here on our route, the 790 Duke therefore made a really coherent impression. It still is, well, back in the day it was called the Scalpel, though I think they have moved away from that by now. Cut to command is the new slogan for this bike. Yes, a nice bit of marketing, but at heart the 790 Duke is still what it always was. A properly sharp KTM naked bike with a cool engine that is genuinely good fun. And now, with the design, it has also arrived in the year 2026. So they have aligned it with the current KTM Duke models. That creates a really coherent overall package. A bike that you really can recommend to a lot of people because on the one hand, it is easy to ride, but at the same time, it is also sporty when you want to have some fun. An important point, of course, is the price. KTM did not want to commit 100% on that just yet, but they told us the goal is to stay at the same price as the current Duke. That means in Germany we are at around 8,700 euros and in Germany at around 9,800 euros. These prices are only guide values for now, so please do not hold me to them, but in any case we will be moving in this range. In other words, we have a KTM naked bike for genuinely under 10,000 euros in this very competitive middleweight naked bike category. Yes, as for the competition, where can it be placed? Of course, strong competition comes from the new Trident 660, which now also arrives with 95 horsepower, but the Hornet 750 and the GSX 8S are there as well. In this field, I would now give a rough estimate like this. Especially with the suspension, I would say KTM is partly ahead of its rivals here because we have a very sporty setup. And above all, we also have ergonomics that allow for pleasantly sporty riding. It is comfortable, yes, but still clearly designed for riding fun. And so this is my rough assessment for now. I really think it will not do badly. Of course, whether it is enough for the very top, that is something we will gladly look at. But to sum it up, I can say that the 790 Duke has finally arrived in the year 2026. The neglected child treatment is behind us. Now we really do once again have a modern KTM naked bike with a cool engine, great suspension, very pleasant ergonomics, and above all equipment with no demo mode anymore, which will please a lot of people. Because the demo mode was controversial. Yes, KTM had all the features unlocked for around 1,000 kilometers. Then they were all switched off and you had to ride to the dealer and pay. That no longer exists. They come in the base version and then you can simply choose directly at the dealer what you want to have. So you can already tell I did not find much negative about this bike. It is genuinely a pleasant, complete package that already comes with the most important things in the base version. Yes, as mentioned in the walk around, pretty much just the fact that we do not have a negative throttle action for switching off the cruise control. I find that a bit of a shame. KTM really should know better there. But of course, this bike was built with a price point in mind, and maybe that is one of those cost-saving measures. Yes, in the end, I would still be interested to know what you think of the new 790 Duke. Do you already ride one? Are you excited about this update? Let me know. Write your opinion down in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.